Hello, and welcome to the Cisco Support Community Google Hangout. During our event today, our speaker will talk about the improved routing features of Cisco Unified Communication Manager's version 10. My name is Qiming Huang, and I'm the product manager for Cisco Support Community here at Cisco. Our expert joining me today is Toshin Bazars, a product engineer at Cisco. Hello, Toshin. Welcome to the Hangout.
Hello. Hi.
Now I would like to brief outline the format for today's Hangout. Toshin will start a short presentation on Cisco UCM for the first 40 minutes, followed by a question and answer session for the remainder of the event. During our presentation, you may submit your questions on Google Hangout event page. Please start posting your questions now to give them the best chance of being answered by our expert. Toshin, let's get started now.
Thank you, Kimmy. Oh, hi, folks. So, like Kimmy said, my name is Toshin, and I'm part of the UC TAC here. So, today's session would basically where we would cover a subset of features under the umbrella of routing enhancements, which have been made in CUCM 10.x version. So, to begin with, let's see what's in for today. So, basically, we'll be talking about what's urgent priority. And then we'll be talking about 4 different features that were introduced or enhanced in this release. So the very first thing you can see the 4 features listed out there. So ability to mark DNS urgent priority, CCD patterns marked urgent priority, multiple local route group, that's an important one, and translation pattern CSS inheritance. So that's another important one as well. So, let's see, what is urgent priority, and feel free to stop me if you have any questions, but, let's try to keep the questions short and precise. So let's start, what is urgent priority really? So if we see, right, it's a feature whereby CUCM immediately routes a call. So what do you mean by immediate would be a question, and what I mean by immediate is, let's say, we have an example here. Basically, we have a route pattern A, which is 12xxx, and we have a route pattern B, which is 12 followed by 4x. So now, when a user picks up his phone and dials 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, what would we expect? We would expect, CUCM to be intelligent enough to, to understand that it's gonna, urgent, send the call right away. But actually, that does not happen, because CUCM still knows that, probably the number you wish to dial is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's gonna match route pattern B. So now there is no way that CUCM can decide, what are you planning to dial? Are you planning to dial a 5-digit extension, or are you planning to dial a 6-digit extension, which would be a subset of the of the 5-digit route pattern? So the way CUCM breaks this tie is we have a timer set up. So this is the timer which CUCM kicks in, which is called the T302 timer, which is by default of 15 seconds. So what happens is that when you dial 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the first example that's shown on the screen right now, CUCM will wait for 15 seconds for you to enter any extra digit, so that it can be sure that you did not wish to dial 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You are sure that you're only dialing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this, after 15 seconds, once CUCM confirms that you have only dialed 5 digits, it says, all right, since you dialed 5 digits only, I will select route pattern A as the best match, and I'm going to route the call out. So this is how it breaks a tie, in a situation where the 2 route patterns are equally suitable matches for the call. But what happens when you use the option of urgent priority? It becomes a little different in that scenario. So if we go to our second example there, there we have route pattern 123XX with urgent priority checked. So now what happens, let's say you dial 12345, you would see the call immediately gets connected. And the reason is that you have that urgent priority box checked on the route pattern or on the translation pattern or on the hunt pilot. So at least in pre-10.x, those were the three places where you could do this: on the translation pattern, on the route pattern, and on the hunt group. So now when you dial 12345, CUCM knows that the administrator has configured the system in such a way that if anybody dials 12345, 1 2 and followed by any three digits, it's gonna route the call immediately, matching route pattern A. And this is where things go out of whack, because now if you pick up your phone and try to dial 12345, it's going to immediately route the call, so you will not be able to enter the sixth digit. So you have to be very careful while using this option on CUCM. You need to make sure that you don't have an overlapping pattern, which can cause such issues. So it's a good example to learn from, but it's not a good example to that you would find in daily, you should find in your network. So this is something that you should try avoiding most of the times, because this is going to cause calls not to be completed for a 6-digit dialing of 1 2 followed by the 4 digits. So I hope this is clear. So let's go ahead. Let's go ahead with the routing enhancement features. So the first thing we have done in CUCM 10.x under this umbrella of routing enhancements is that we have marked directory numbers as we have given an option to mark directory numbers as urgent priority. So this is how what we try to look into. So before 10.x CUCM, like I said, we used to observe the T302 timer in order to figure out, whether if there's an overlap, how to break it. So what this, what this feature basically does is it takes the current feature of the urgent priority and puts it on a directory number. So like I said earlier, this feature of urgent priority was only available on a translation pattern, on a route pattern, and on a hunt group. But in 10.x CUCM, you can have urgent priority marked on directory numbers. That basically translates to you can mark urgent priority for the extensions on your phone. So the question that I get asked most of the times is that why would we need that? So let's take an example here. This slide basically talks about the fact that so we have only a translation pattern, route pattern, and hunt pilot in pre-10.x, and after 10.x, we have changed this behavior. So let's take an example. Okay, let's say I have a directory number. Some of the European customers, what they do is their directory numbers within the company are complete E164 numbers. That's the complete number. Well, let's take an example like +1 408 434 3241. That's actually the extension on their phones. And now, if in such a company, and if I had to dial out, and I would have a route pattern which says plus.bank, which basically means for any plus dialing, use this route pattern. Now, if you see, if you match these two scenarios, you have your internal directory numbers which start with the +1 408, and you want to call out, call out international, national, really depends on your configuration with a plus. Now there's a potential conflict where your plus sign is on both the sides, on your directory number and on your route pattern. So CUCM Yeah, digit analysis process is in a fix as to how should I route this call. Should I route it out through the route pattern, or should I directly extend this call to the directory number? So let's say I'm a user A and I dial +1 408 434 3241, which is my number, and I also have a route pattern. So what CUCM would do in this case is CUCM with pre10.x would actually wait for that 15-second interval and say, all right, I have a potential match here inside the company for this number. And I also have a close fit match on the route pattern level. So let me see, if I get any more digits, and I'll just wait for 15 seconds. Because if you see, the route pattern is plus dot bang, which basically means any number followed, any number which starts with a plus. So CUCM is still not sure if you have completed dialing the digits. So now in this case, it's waits for 15 seconds, and only after 15 seconds that it decides, okay, the user has completed dialing the numbers. So I can take the numbers that he has dialed till now as the complete set of numbers that he wished to dial, and based on that, CUCM is going to route the call out. So this is not something that you would really like to see, because you're waiting for 15 seconds just because CUCM could not be configured to route the call immediately. So if you see, this is exactly what I was trying to explain. So we have all the IP phone DNs, and in the company which have begin with a +1 number, and we also have plus dialing for outside. So this is how it would look. This is how the urgent priority is going to look on your web page. It's going to be a small checkbox next to your directory number where you can say that this is an urgent priority. Now, since we declare this directory number as an urgent priority, if anybody dials what you see on your screen, 182.0.0.3 as from within the system, it's going to route the call immediately, even if we have a 18.bang route pattern. So it's not going to wait there just to see if you have any other digits to dial. So if anybody dials 18.2003 in this case, what you see on your screen, it's going to route the call immediately. So yeah, so I hope this is clear, because this is the crux of the urgent priority discussion, and this is something that's important, to understand. Let me let me know if you guys have any questions. Okay, I'll move on then. So this is exactly how what we discussed in the example. So if a user is dialing, let's go through this. Without this feature, if a user is dialing the complete number, with urgent priority disabled, the digit analysis engine in CUCM has the exact match, which is the internal extension, but it also has a potential match of the route pattern, and hence it waits for that interdigit timer, that's a T302 timer, to expire, waits for 15 seconds and then routes the call. And with this feature enabled, since CUCM knows that, it has to route this call, based on the match it found, it does not wait for that particular 15 seconds of the timer to kick off. So what happens? There's an interesting integration, or feature which was released in 9.x CUCM, which says speed dial wait for the digits. So what they basically this service parameter used to do, and this was introduced in CUCM 9.x, is that once you dial a speed dial, it's going to allow you to enter more digits. So earlier, if you used to dial speed dials, we were not able to enter more digits, but with this particular parameter you set to true, you can actually dial more digits. So how does it impact? So let's say, uh, uh, let's say you enter your speed dial. Like I said, if the service parameter is true and the pattern that's marked urgent is matched, CUCM does not wait for the timer to expire. So that basically translates to, if this service parameter is true and you use a speed dial and the pattern that's matched is marked for urgent priority, in that case, CUCM will not wait for the interdigit timer to expire. It will not wait for that time of 15 seconds, which is something that you can actually configure, but by default it's 15 seconds. So it's going to route the call immediately. So I've put an example there, that which says, if you have a +1 408 555 1998 as a non-urgent DN, and you even have a non-urgent route pattern, it's gonna work the way I explained. But now, if the DN is marked as urgent, like I said, CUCM will immediately route the call to the DN without starting the timer. Is that clear? Okay.
Toshin, I think there's no question. I think the presentation is going very well, so you can just get all the presentation and goes to the Q&A session.
Sure.
I'll watch for the questions. Yeah, going very well. Thank you.
So, here's something that I wanted to share with you guys, is that what we see in the logs, it's something that probably, most of you might not deal with directly, because this is something that comes into tax field, tax playground. But it's a good to know kind of a thing, that what happens, what do you see in your logs when this kind of an situation is seen, when you don't see that particular delay of 15 seconds. How can you make sure that it's because of the urgent priority that was checked? So what we in CUCM 10.x, we have this particular special, if you see on your screen, that's a special a word that gets printed in the trace logs, which is forego potential matches, which basically means that it jumped all potential matches because it matched a pattern which had urgent priority checked. So there are a few ways you can go about troubleshooting issues, because most of the issues that you would probably come across with respect to urgent priority is, like I explained earlier, if you have overlapping patterns, you wish to dial a longer digit extension, but you get a fast busy with the moment you dial, let's say 4 digits. Let's say you have to dial 1 2 3 4 5 6, and you start dialing 1 2 3 4, and you hear a fast busy, and that basically would 99% of the times would translate to you having some kind of an overlapping pattern. So it's good to verify your dial plan using the route plan report that's available on your CUCM admin page, just to see that you don't have any conflicting route patterns. And and also, like I mentioned, make sure the configuration is steps are correct. This is how it's going to look in CUCM 10.x on your directory number. So yeah, please remember, this is a small note that I've put in here, that whatever routing, however the call routing used to work, it's going to remain the same way. So it's not going to change any, the call routing logic remains the same. It's just that, we are giving more tools to work with. The backend engine, the digital analysis engine remains the same. So let's see, so like I said, this is something that can be updated via BAT also. The bulk administration tool, you can do bulk updates to all the directory numbers in your organization in a single click. So this is also possible. So let's jump to the next enhancement, which is ability to mark CCD patterns urgent priority. So the CCD patterns are nothing but call control discovery patterns. That's a feature in which CUCM learns patterns through ERGRP discovery methods from different clusters, from different neighboring clusters. So this is an old feature, but what we have enhanced this feature whereby you can even mark the patterns that are learned by CUCM as urgent priority. So these patterns are not something that you put in manually, but these are patterns that are learned from other clusters. So other clusters actually broadcast these patterns to other CUCMs clusters that they can talk to. So before 10.x CUCM release, we would see the integer timer when, let's say, we are trying to dial out a CCD pattern across a SAF trunk. If there is any overlapping pattern present in your system. So what it used to do, exactly like the urgent priority on directory number, if there's an overlapping pattern between your learned pattern and your manually configured pattern, it's going to break the tie by using that particular timer. So here is an example, so let's say if there's a learned pattern which is +44,987 XXX and your PSTN pattern is +44.bang. Now if the user dials +44,987,127, which you see on your screen, it's going to match both the patterns equally. So now in this case, you have a PSTN pattern and you have a learned pattern, and it's matching both. Pre-10.x, we didn't have anything to do, to break the tie, so we just had to wait for 15 seconds, or we had to change the dial plan. But now what you can do is, on your learned pattern, you can specify, okay, being a learned pattern, I will give you urgent priority. If somebody dials +44,987,127, I know that this is going to be on the other CUCM cluster, so I'm going to let you be routed through that path immediately. So we are not going to wait or kick off the timer. This is a similar example, just that in this case we are going from one translation pattern to a learned pattern. So if you see here the user actually dials 9011 2345667 followed by a pound, which is actually a translation pattern, and that in turn has access to the SIP/SAF trunk, which is nothing but the learned pattern that we have in our system. So the user dials a set of strings, set of numbers, which matches a translation pattern, which in turn has access to the SIP/SAF trunk pattern. That's a learned pattern. Now if you see here, this is a variable length learned pattern, +55.bang. That's a variable length. It can be +55 followed by any number of digits. So we call it a variable length learned pattern. But in the previous case, we had a fixed set of numbers. We know that the pattern that we've learned is gonna be how much? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8-digit long, followed by prepended by a plus sign. So we know for a fact that it's only the 8 digits that can be routed across a SIP trunk. But in our second example, it's a variable length pattern. So we have two new, in order to overcome this issue of dealing with both the patterns, we have introduced two parameters which basically talk about fixed length CCD patterns and variable length CCD learned patterns. So we can set urgent priority on each, and it can be done only by the administrator. So I think this is just so here's where you do it on your CUCM. So you go to under call routing, you go to call control discovery, feature configuration, And when you go to feature configuration, this is by default set to false. You can turn them on to true. So this is, this is the exact same thing. Like, like the earlier urgent priority, we still print the same lines in the traces for forgo potential matches, but without going deep, we should be able to figure out easily that this is that this particular forgo potential matches was because of a SAFT learned CCD pattern and not because of a directory number urgent priority pattern. So we can definitely differentiate that, but it's going to be too much. It's going to be out of scope for this session. But you can keep this in mind that this that this it's the same line that we are going to print in the logs. Okay, so how can you verify a learn pattern? So, in RTMT, we have a performance monitor which talks about learn patterns, and we can also just verify the configuration. Just make sure that it's set uh, exactly how you want it to be, and there is no conflicting issue. So yeah, one quick thing is, please note, like earlier, there is no change in the call routing logic. The logic still remains the same. It's just that you can promote your CCD pattern to be an urgent priority pattern. That is it. This brings us to the third feature, which is actually which is actually an interesting one, and this is an important feature that we would see in the upcoming release, uh, you know, which might be used more than other features, in my opinion, but this is definitely a feature that can be leveraged to the best of its use. Uh, so what we mean by multiple local route group, without looking at the slides, what I would like to say is, it's in pre-10.x, one site had one single local route group, and we were stuck with this idea that one particular site can have a local route group only local to itself. So if I have a local route group, in that local route group, my preference would be my local router or local voice gateway, and if that fails, I will fail over to some other voice gateway. So that was just one local route group. But so in Data.x, we broke away from that particular ideology, and we said, all right, it's not necessary that you will always want to have your primary voice gateway on top in preference, and your other voice gateway second preference. You're probably, for different patterns, you might want different things, and it becomes way too combustion, it becomes way too populated on your route plan report when you see that you have so many route patterns followed by so many route lists and so many route groups. you know it's cumbersome for some administrators, but some people like it that way. But this feature is definitely going to ease lives, yeah, for those who get strained looking at those many route lists. So let's see, so this is exactly what I was talking about. So in 10.x, we just have one LRG, and that's at the device pool. I'm going to use LRG from now on as an abbreviation. So this is how it looks in 10.x. We have a single local route group, and you define a route group, and then you associate it to a device pool. And yes, this is how you put it under the route list. You say while you're configuring the route list, you select standard local route group, and that's it. So this is how it used. This is a good example. Let's discuss this example for a while. So if you see device pool A for phone A has standard local route group, which has route group A, SIP site D, and that's actually name of the route group. So route group A to SIP site D. device pool B for phone B has nothing, and so does C. So, so the preference order in route list is standard local route group followed by route group site D, MGCP site D. Uh, so now let's say the user at site A dials the 9 followed by 4-digit extension. It's going to always use the route group A to SIP site D as its preferred choice. But what about emergency route pattern 8 8 followed by 4x? So 8 followed by 4 digits, that is something that's local to each and every uh, phone. So, so if the phone A dials A.xxx, we need to make a route pattern and have a route list just for this particular site. Now we have three phones. Phone A tries to call the A.xxxxx. Now we don't want the calls to be routed using the local route group, because that's not, let's say I'm doing THO. This A.xxx is an emergency route and I want to do tail end hop off. I want to send this call to my different voice gateway as a primary originator. So in this case, I cannot use my standard local route group because it's going to always send the call out from my local gateway. I wish to send it from a remote gateway. So now in this case, what the administrators used to do before is they used to have a separate A.x for site A, a separate A.x for site B, and separate pattern A.x pattern for site C, and then they used to route the call based on that. So if I had to give you an clearer picture, is that let's say we have site A, B, and C. Site A calls wants to call THO. Now when you configure site A for THO, what you used to do is you used to create a route list and used to point it to the route group, which includes the site B, where you want to originate the call out of your system. So you used to go to select the site B route group and put it there. Now if let's say you have 100 different sites, you will do this 99 times, or actually 100 times for each site. You want to do a tail end hop off for 100 sites, you have to do this again and again and again for every site. It becomes very, very difficult to manage this kind of a system, because now you have 100 sites doing tail end hop offs from all the different sites. So we made this this awesome enhancement whereby we have given you more number of local route groups. So now, instead of sending one call through your standard local route group, you can send different calls through different local route groups. You can define those local route groups for each device pool, and you can use them for device pool specific. So the settings would almost remain the same, the logic would still remain the same. It's just that you are getting more options, and so this is going to reduce the number of route lists that you will have to configure. So if you see at the slide that I'm presenting right now, so we have local route group names. This is under it's under call routing, and I cannot recollect. It's under route hunt. Under the routing segment, you can find it there. Local route group names. It's under the call routing section, but I'm not sure which subsection is it. It should be under the routing subsection though. So you can see that what we are doing here is by default we are giving you a standard local route group, but in my example I have added two new local route groups, and I've given them a name and a description here. So you can add as many local route groups as you wish to add. So once you hit save here on this page, you can you can go to your device pool, and you will see that your local route group settings has introduced two new local route groups on the device pool. So earlier we only had one. So here is where you actually get to choose which is your, route as emergency route site A. What's the route gonna be? What's the route group that you wish to choose? So let's say you have 100 sites and you want to do tailend hop off. So you can have 99 standard local route groups here and different route groups selected here itself. So you don't have to really, go and make so many changes, but you can do this right here. So that's exactly, what it's going to do. So you can associate your route groups here itself. So these are the names of the route groups that you would have created. So this is interesting here. Now, when you actually go try to add the route list, you would see that this shows up as a local route group. So if we go back to our previous slide, we have emergency route site A and emergency route site B added as local route groups on this particular device pool. So, so if, they get added as, when you try to add them on the route list, you can see them as local route groups. So earlier we only used to have the standard local route group. Now, from now on, we have emergency route, we have you will see all the local route groups that are in your device pool. So this is not device pool centric, so it's going to pull out everything from whatever you created on this page. So whatever was here, it's going to show up as a local route group on your route list page. So this is not something that gets pulled from your device pool. This is something that gets pulled from that regular page where you add the local route group. So now let's see. This is the same example that we looked at earlier with the enhancement. So now the phone A tries to call out from the 9.xxx pattern. We wanted it to use the standard local route group, so it chooses that option. But how about the emergency call? Now we have an emergency local route group which has route group A to E. So this has route group A to E now. So now if we have to dial the 8.xxx pattern, what we can say there is we can create a single route list and say, okay, the first option will be whoever calls the 8.xxx pattern, that's an emergency pattern, they're going to be sent out using the emergency route LRG. So now phone A calls 8.xxx. Earlier, it did not have any, earlier we had to do manual configuration for all the three sites. Now what happens is that since we have an additional standard local route group as emergency route local LRG in there, we can map that, we can see that route group A to E is being used. So if we go to device pool B and if phone B, while trying to make the call to the A.xxx pattern, it's going to use that RG_B_2E route group. So you can see, so now we have a single route pattern which is pointing to a single route list, but at the same time we have achieved, local route group functionality for three different sites. So in pre-10.x, we had to achieve this functionality by adding three route patterns for three different sites. Just because we did not want to send the calls out through the standard local route group. So we were stuck with just one option there. Now you can choose as many options as you wish. So this is exactly, what it does. So we had 20 minutes. So, this is exactly, these are the cases. Phone 1 calls phone 5 via the route list to site E. So, this is exactly what I said. Phone 1 is at site A and phone 5 is at site E. So it's going to use the emergency route local LRG. And if you see, there's a secondary route group here in the preference order of the A dot XXXX pattern. So that remains the usual, how it used to be. So you can have uh, the route group, the preference remains the same, like older versions where so you can have multiple route groups within the route list. All that hasn't changed. We have just enhanced the feature. We have made available. We have provided more local route groups as compared to what we used to do earlier. So that saves a lot of time and also makes the system easy to maintain and operate. Interaction with LRG forwarding. This is another thing that got introduced in 9.0 version of CUCM. So local route group for redirected calls. So what happens if somebody calls someone and he redirects the call? Let's say, so basically, if you see here, we have four options. We have local route group of calling party, we have local route group of original called party, or of the last redirecting party. So this is a good example to, explain this with. Phone 1 calls phone 2, phone 2 has called forward to phone 3, phone 3 has called forward to phone 4. So in this case, phone 1 is the calling party, phone 2 is the original called party, phone 3 is the last redirecting party, and phone 4 is the final party that's receiving the call. So now if we go back to this slide, so what happens? How is the call supposed to go to phone 4? Which particular device whose local route group should we use? Should we use phone 1, 2, phone 1, 2, 3? The call has to reach eventually to phone 4 because it has gone through subsequent call forwarding mechanisms. And now we need to decide, how do we want to send this call to phone 4 and whose local route group should we use? So this is the parameter which actually comes into picture, and this is a system-wide parameter. So basically, we can tell the system that in such a case, kindly use local route group of either the calling party or the original called party or the last redirecting party. So in our case, the original call party is phone 1, the original called party is phone 2, and the last redirecting party is phone 3. And the last, the receiving phone 4 really is not important, but we won't be using its LRG because it's not the calling party anyway. So that goes out of picture in this example. So just keep that in mind, that phone 4 does not really play any role in deciding the local route group. It's just a receiving entity. So yeah, here I have mentioned. So if you go here, you can see that it's call routing under route hunt local route group name page. This is exactly where you add it. Okay, so you can add rows. If you can add, there's no limitation on the number of entries that you can have here at present, but we haven't faced any issues with anybody till now with any huge entries getting populated and causing issues. So there shouldn't be any sizing issues or capacity issues. So yeah, insert an entry row, add in local route group name, description, and save it, and you will see this see it pop up on your device pool. So there's no reset, nothing required for it to pop up on the device pool. And yep, and once you're done with that, you can go to your route list page and save it there. So translation pattern CSS. This is another feature. This is the fourth feature, So just to have a quick recap, we covered three features till now. We covered DN, marking DNs as urgent priority. We covered marking CCD learned patterns as urgent priority, and we covered multiple local route groups. So this is the fourth feature, and this is a simpler feature, translation pattern CSS inheritance. So what does it do? So before 10.x, let's say a user, system administrators never knew that there's a lot of calls which are happening which are not supposed to happen. So what do I mean by that? So phone A, let's take an example. Let's say phone A has access to a translation pattern, which in turn, so this translation pattern in turn has access to international calling route pattern. But phone A does not have direct access to the route pattern. So now what used to happen is phone A, over a period of time, through user experience, they figured out they can dial international, but this is how some phones behave. Some people can dial, some people cannot. So what we found is that some people had access to the translation pattern, which in turn had access to the route pattern, whereas the people who couldn't dial, they had access to none. They couldn't access the translation pattern or the route pattern for international dialing. So this is something that as administrators you might not see. It's something that might not be evident to you on the screen, but it might happen. So the easiest way that you can go about trying to fix this is by leveraging this particular feature. So this is exactly what's explained in the slide here. If you read the last option, last bullet point there, it's mentioned that this problem needs to be solved, but without additional configuration overhead. So all we do is we provide you with a checkbox, and that's it. Life is good after that. So in 10.x, so we discussed what used to happen in 10.x. CUCM always used to use the translation patterns calling search space. So I'll refer to calling search space as CSS from now on. But so now the translation pattern CSS is being used to match the route pattern, and it's the phone's CSS which is being used to match the translation pattern. So it's phone CSS first, accesses translation pattern CSS in turn accesses the route pattern. Now in 10.x, what we have done is we have given you an option wherein you can say use the originator's calling search space, which basically means you can go to the translation pattern and say, all right, if you are being used, you do not use your calling search space that's on you. You in turn use the calling party, the original calling party CSS, that's the phone CSS, for the call to be routed further. So instead of the translation pattern using its own CSS, it will use the phone CSS for any further call routing. So if the translation pattern does a digit manipulation and further it matches a route pattern, the fate of the call will be decided if the original calling party, that's your phone, has access to this particular route pattern. So this is something that's that's interesting, because this is something that has been borrowed from the UCCX world, where this concept existed long time back, but this is exactly how it's going to work. So let's see how it looks. So functional overview, we just talked about that. If the translation pattern is used for modifying the dial digits, the originating device CSS used to be lost and was not taken further into consideration. So so this is how it's going to look. So on your translation pattern, you have a small checkbox which says use original calling party CSS, and that's it. So one important thing to take note of is the moment you check this option, your calling search space would get grayed out and would be, you know, would be selected to none. And you don't have to worry about that because let's say you were just trying to test this feature and you just, for the heck of it, try to, check this box and click save. Now you don't remember what was the CSS that was on the translation pattern. You don't have to worry. The moment you uncheck this box, it's gonna auto-populate the CSS that was used earlier. So that should be taken care of. So in case you forget to make note of the CSS that was used on the translation pattern, all you need to do is uncheck the box, save again, and it's going to auto-populate the previous CSS that was on there. So yeah, so this is the same example. Now, once we enable this checkbox on the 9011.pound translation pattern, anybody cannot dial, not everyone can dial the international calls because it would be decided by the administrator if that particular phone has access to the route pattern, the final route pattern or not. So this is exactly how it's, so you try to access this translation pattern, and in turn it accesses the route pattern. Now you can decide that you decide on who CSS really requires to be used. So I think we have 10 minutes, so we will quickly skip this because this is just an overview of the whole thing that I explained. But here's a troubleshooting tip that I wanted to share with you because this is something that we come across DAC a lot. If you happen to see your logs, if you happen to see your CUCM traces, this is how it's going to look in your traces. It's going to be this is the CSS that gets printed. So for your phone, it's going to be 2 CSS, line and device. It's a combination of both. And this is, if you see the blue number starting with 5C0CB, it's your device CSS. 200 number starting in red is your line CSS. This is how it gets printed in your traces. All right, that's it. Let's have a quick Q&A. Any questions for me? Please feel free to shoot.
Toshin, I just sent you another new question. I think you got all the existing questions already, so you can go through the questions and give a quick answer.
Okay, so I actually have a question here which says the additional route groups for the device pool must be emergency. No, not really emergency. That was just an example. That's not really something that has to be an emergency. It was just an example to showcase that we are routing the calls out for emergency purposes through a different site. So we are using, that was just an example. You can have anything. You don't really have to. You really don't need to have local route groups only for emergency. You can have it for tail hand off, hop off, and you can have it for any other purpose you wish to have. But that was just an example. It's not really just restricted to emergency. So, I also received a few other set of questions. These are the questions that I have received. So at the moment, I'm using CUCM 715, and this installation is an upgrade from CCM 403. At that time, CUCM kept IPMA and attendant console functionalities on the 7.1. Is it possible to upgrade from 7.1 to 10? And if so, will IPMA and attendant console keep working? So to answer your question, there are two pieces to your question. The first piece is, yes, it is possible to upgrade from 7.1 to 10.x version of CUCM. There's an upgrade path. If you wish to know more, you can open up a tag case for this and we can help you in upgrading. But the key point to take note of is your 10.x version of CUCM would be supported on MCS boxes, but your 10.x version of CUCM is no longer supported on MCS boxes. So it has to be a a VM a virtual machine. So 9.x is the last time that we are going to support hardware boxes, but to so that points out another question, that while migration, you might move to a virtual box, you might move the 7.x version, which was only supported on MCS boxes, to a virtual box. So what happens then? We completely support migration of 7.x from the hardware platform of MCS to virtual platform, and we only support it for migration. We do not recommend customers running 7.x version of CUCM on virtual hardware for long. I had come across case recently wherein they were running running on the virtual platform for almost 30 odd days, which is definitely not recommended by Cisco. So, and coming to your second question, what happens to attendant console functionalities and IPMA? IPMA stays as it is. The shade line and the proxy line feature will remain the same. But when it comes to attendant console, we have it has gone out of support, I think, back in 2012. It's the last server, the last CUCM release that it's going to be on is 7.15. So Cisco strongly recommends you move to Cisco Unified Attendant Console, Enterprise Attendant Console, or Business Attendant Console, starting from CUCM 8.03 onwards. 7.15 is the last time it was officially supported, but I think it was in 2012 that this particular feature ran out of support. So it's I would recommend you, if you could move on and try to try to move on to attendant console, enterprise attendant console. My CUCM is, so let's go to another question here. My CUCM is working on a physical machine. Is it possible to upgrade to a virtual machine? Yes, it is definitely possible to upgrade to a virtual machine. It would be great if you could, if we had the CUCM version, but we encourage customers to move to virtual platform. It's much more easier for you to maintain it, and it's the way forward. So CUCM, definitely, if you are on a virtual physical machine, we definitely can support you to move to if you're on a physical machine, we will support you to move to a virtual machine. So in CUCM 10.x, is licensing different? There are a few bugs on licensing that got fixed in CUCM 10.x and in the later releases of 9.x. So licensing as such has not really changed, but if few things here and there, it's small. I'm talking about small defects. And licensing in whole has been working awesome on 9.1 version of CUCM. It has we had a few small defects with type 3 phones, but that's all taken care of. And in 10.x, the licensing still remains the same. It's just that when you upgrade to 10.x, you'll have to upgrade your licenses as well. So you'll have to purchase 10.x licenses on your enterprise license manager. So I'm not sure if this is licensing different. If you're comparing licensing of 10.x with 9.x, there's not much difference. But if you're comparing your 10.x licenses or 9.x license to CUCM 8.x, it's a whole lot different. So that's out of scope for this particular session, but to answer it short, yes, it's a whole lot different when you compare it to pre 9.x version of CUCM. Will version 10 work with CUP version 9? No, there's a strong guideline here that your CUCM version 9 would work with CUPS version 9 only. Actually, it's on it's on the document, clearly mentioned. Cisco highly recommends that CUP version 9 will run only with CUCM version 9.x, and CUP's version 10 will only work with CUCM version 10.x. So it has to go hand in hand. What new features will end user notice? There are a lot of new features that the end users would notice. We have video on hold, which has come out. We have a lot of new fancy phones or endpoints that have come out. The MX range, you can check out MX 100, 200, 300. There's a good YouTube video on that. The whole collaboration suite is going to revamp. So I'm not sure what kind of new features are you talking about, but the features that we covered in this session are going to be only specific to administrators. How can we migrate from version 9? The migration is it's just an upgrade. It's not really any kind of a migration. It should be simple upgrade. CUCM version 10 works with UCCX version 9. Yes, it does. I need to double verify that, but as far as I remember, it does. Is any feature there to gather metric about usage of the system? Yes, there is. You can definitely pull out reports from your car, which is the CDR data that's on your call manager under reporting. I'm not sure if if you're familiar with that, but you can actually include take see how much is your SIP trunk utilized. You can see how many calls is it processing and all that. So you can pull out reports specific to gateways, specific to trunks, specific to devices, specific to users who are trying to make the calls out. So all that is possible, on the reporting web page of CUCM. If you need more information, I would recommend you either post your question on the community link or open up a tag case. We should be able to help you with that. So I think those were some good questions that we had for us. So any other questions that anybody wants to shoot? Is there any other question, Kuming?
Hi, Toshin. I do not see any questions there, and I think that's about all the time we have today for the Q&A session. Comes to the 11 o'clock. If anyone has additional questions or we didn't get a chance to answer your questions, please post those questions in the Cisco Support Community on Google Plus or on Cisco.com. I have posted the URLs on this event page. And thank you so much to our expert Toshin Bazars for sharing his knowledge and expertise with us. It's a very informative session. I think everyone, including me, really enjoy it. Now, I would like to just invite you quickly to join our upcoming webcast about Cisco UCM 10.0 version 10 session 2 on Friday, May 2nd at 10 a.m. to 11 p.m. Pacific time. I think it's Toshin going to come again, join us and talk about more about the Cisco UCM. I also like to invite you to join our upcoming meetup about Cisco platform for Internet of Everything on Thursday, April 17th at 12 o'clock. Pacific time. We're going to hold it in the Silicon Valley Bank. And also I post another meetup URL on the event page about part of briefing for Cisco Unified Computing System, Computing Central 1.1. The sign-up URLs are all on the event page. Welcome and invite you sincerely to join those events. Also, please invite your colleague and friends to join Google Plus community to receive the notification of the future events. Again, thank you for joining us at our Hangout, and everyone have a wonderful day. Thank you. Bye-bye.